Well, hello, my baby gorillas, and here we are, Hyde Park Speakers Corner in London, in anticipation for the new Speakers Corner in Edinburgh in the Meadows on the 3rd of October. 3rd of October, let me fix my hair. 3rd of October, Sunday, 2 to 5 p.m. in the Meadows. So I know this is backwards, so you can't really read this, so let me read it out to you. It says the hecklers. I do not heckle for the sake of heckling. If they are saying something that doesn't seem right, I will do so. Ruth Eastwood, hecklers and debaters in Hyde Park from 1940s. So I'm surprised we've not actually had this sooner. A culture of dialogue. Some speakers plotted to attract hecklers, knowing that a spirited exchange was the best way to draw a crowd. Group platforms with special speakers would on occasion stage questions from their members if they hadn't managed to attract a helpful heckler. Mike Zetlin, a regular in the 1970s, remember, I intend to like hecklers because I was always a bit dubious about people standing there speaking, telling us what they think from a position slightly above us. And if someone responded, it actually can be empowering to everyone else. I know it can make them think, oh, actually, yes, I can say something as well as I can disagree. Dramatic encounters for many regular devotees, such as Chris Kennett, who attended as a boy in the 1960s. Hecklers were welcome for the drama they created rather than the contribution to serious debate, which is quite interesting. There is one in particular I remember whose name was Mary, and she was a very small woman, but she was really vicious. She came on crutches, she barged her way through the crowd, she'd stand right at the front and she'd jeer at the speakers. Didn't matter what colour or creed, didn't matter any difference, and she always found a way of antagonising them. She'd get the crowd going. So this is exactly what we're looking to do in the stimulation of democratic debate in Edinburgh. A friendly crowd at the Speaker's Corner 1968 with Chris Kennett, a woman arguing with Jewish man 1993. The end is at hand, evangelist Christian placards. Some of the speakers detested her and they'd try and drive her away. If they didn't, she'd go and find another target, but sometimes she'd take crowd with her because there were people who'd enjoy listening to the heckles as much as listening to the speakers. And as I, for one of them, I'd follow the hecklers. For them, that was great entertainment. Adam Buke, who spoke from the early 1960s, says that although people can be rude or even aggressive at Speaker's Corner, compared to what people are like on the internet, it's nothing, which is an interesting thing. And it's isn't it? Face to face, you are not going to be so insulting if you were just behind a keyboard. Listen to the voices of Speaker's Corner and download activity for you, your family or your school group here. royalparks.org.uk/speakers-corners. So this is from the Royal Parks. So I'm sure once in Edinburgh that we'll get something similar. Let's have a look around here. I know you can't see it, I know it's reversed. Don't worry, that's just part and parcel of what's happening here. So the heckling makes Speaker's Corner a conversation, not a monologue. Essentially, to the dynamic Speaker's Corner, hecklers are described as snipers, quality control, dissidents, destablers and inquirers. They might gently ask questions, let rip a cutting one-liner, or heckle mother-in-law jokes, or write the meeting by shouting disruptively until the speaker gives up. So, I mean, that's quite an incredible plethora. The culture of Speaker's Corner is to heckle. There is no other forum like it where you get the audience that are browsing really, that can give move away at any time because the other speaker within yards, and that audience is hosting snipers who will make a few remarks and then they will move on, so they are completely unaccountable. Tony Allen. So the heckler interrupts a meeting at Speaker's Corner in 1978, a heckler interrupts in 1964, Frank and Royal Regalia. He was in the Anti-Royalist in 1980, sorry. So, let me just sneeze here. So, Tom Tickles was heckled. Tom Tickles was heckled in the park since 1950s. He is considered that part of the reason he enjoys heckling so much is that it's a form of anger management. It gets rid of my own spleen. It gets rid of my own spleen. Another long-standing heckler, Ruth Eastwood, who has visited the park, Speaker's Park Corner since she was a toddler in the 1940s, says heckling is about testing the strengths of speakers' arguments. I pull everything apart to see if it's true rather than like the British kite maker. You test a seat belt and it doesn't get the mark until it has passed certain tests, but you are pulling apart and testing it with pressure because you want to see if it's strength, not because you want to destroy it. Excuse me. Ruth traces her heckling back to her Orthodox Jewish background. I was taught to search for the truth. It doesn't matter who's saying it or what it is. You must listen for what is right. The art of the quick riposte. How speakers respond to their hecklers makes or breaks their meeting. The speaker must make quick retorts, as Richard Hedeker, a speaker from the late 1950s on nuclear disarmament, among other issues, learned. I had this one heckler who was incredibly irritating and I couldn't deal with him, and then I was talking about the danger of war by accident or by mistake, and he said, "There you go again." I said, "What do you mean? Bamboozling everyone?" I said, how am I doing that? Well, you always use several words when one word will do. I said, "Give me an example." He said, "Well, all day you've been talking about accidental or mistake." I said, "Yes." He said, "Well, they're the same." I said, "They're not." He said, "They are." And to this day, I did not know where it came from. But I said, "Sir, you may or may not have been an accident, but you were certainly a very big mistake." Listen to the voices at Speaker's Corner and download activities for you, your family or your school group. royalparks.org.uk/Speaker's Corner. So this is what we've got to look forward to in Edinburgh. This will be absolutely superb. Let's have a wee walk around Speaker's Corner and see what's actually happening. I'm not actually sure. So this is the sort of entrance up at the Marble Arch exit. So let's have a wee look over here. So this is about the speakers. So being the speakers in Speaker's Corner forced you to concentrate yourself. In a sense, some essence of what you are has to come, because if it doesn't, how are you going to engage with people? Abraham Green, speakers in the 1990s. So performing controversy is key to Speaker's Corner style and essentially useful when you need to gather a crowd. Style is often more important than context. A Marxist speaker, Kinko Ko, explains it doesn't matter what the subject is if you have a style of speaking or a pattern that engages and to some degree connects with the times. You don't even, it can't come with a script and assume it's got to work, because if it won't. Let me read that again. You can't just come with a script and a cue, a cousin to it's going to work. Assume my goodness, assume it's going to work. That script has to be played again, the audience at Speaker's Corner, but if you prepare to work it and play the audience, you can create a speech about anything. Could be aliens, philosophy, politics, history, sexism, racism, you name it. Anything you want to talk about, you can talk about it. For Tony Allen, anarchist comedian, Speaker's Corner is the ultimate performance space, unlike acting, which is quite interesting as well. A fellowship of controversy. Donald Soper, a well-known Methodist minister, first spoke at Hyde Park in 1926 and continued to do so until the month before he died in December 1998. The clarity and booming volume of his voice were striking. Cathy Humphreys, a long-term friend of Soper's, recalls that his mother, a headmistress, taught him how to properly project his voice when speaking at Tower Hill. During his regular lunchtime slot, he drew crowds of thousands, and it was said that his voice could be heard from across the Thames, unlike mine. So it just shows you what a voice can actually do. The voice can be obviously sometimes more powerful than the actual words, which is quite incredible. I always think the context is more important, but definitely a great orator can hold a crowd. He said that unconventional figures. He was a Methodist minister. He yet held religious and political views that were often considered outlandish. For example, in his open air meetings, he said that the people might ditch Old Testament and just read the sermons on the Mount and the New Testament. Cathy Humphreys remembers one of the favourite sayings: "I'd rather have an infallible pope than I'd rather have an infallible pope than an infallible book, as at least the pope can change his mind," which is quite interesting. Soper defied expectations, rather mentioning religion in the Speaker's Corner, finding inspiration from speeches instead in the morning newspapers. His passionate delivery and ability to encourage people was greatly admired. Both major political parties spent fledgling MPs to hear him speak and learn his style. His unique public speaking was noted for a quick and ruthless way with which he dealt with hecklers and their interruptions. A dishevelled atheist once heckled him with Christianity has been around for a long time without doing much good, to which Soper replied, "Soup and water have been around for a long time and they don't seem to have done you much good either." Nonetheless, such interactions between speakers and hecklers enable the term of debate to be challenged in ways that Soper thought was severely lacking in other areas of life. And he said the great difference is you can't answer back to the television. The speakers, there are something about the people. I mean, what makes someone want to come down week after week and behave in that way? Were they mad? Wonder Chris Kennett as a teenager visiting Hyde Park in the 1960s. Up to the step ladders, speakers entertained the crowd of hundreds or talked intently on the ground with a small group. They are mostly, but not all, only men. They speak about religion, politics, and sometimes less serious. Some use street theatre or bizarre routines, like the Hyde Park Question Corner lady who gave out sweets as a quiz prize in the 1960s. Roy Sawh, who started speaking in 1959, shortly after moving to Britain from the British British Guinea, said his motivation for speaking was a desire to challenge racism and injustice. You either change it or you accept it. I was not prepared to accept it. I can't stand injustice. Other speakers were not motivated by a single cause, but were interested in dialogue. Julian Meek, who ran Open Platform, where anyone could get up and speak, said he wanted to create a community of those who were there. A community of those who were there. And whether it was a word or whether it was a smile or whether it was something that made someone laugh, they engaged with someone else, the relationship rather than perhaps the context. It's a process. Speakers training ground. Most speakers put in hard years of training at Speakers Corner. They developed their speaking ability through a mixture of watching others and trying it out for themselves. As John Palmer learnt when he spoke in the late 1950s, to get anywhere, to survive, you have to develop a capacity to attract and hold an audience and hold your nerve. Most budding speakers test the water by heckling, as Tony Allen, anarchist speaker and comedian, did in the early 1970s. I think anyone who does this, it's a way of hearing your own voice in the situation of scaring yourself when you do it. You sort of look around. Did that go down? It's the first step. So I always say that anyone who heckles a lot, I say you're a frustrated speaker. Because they can't dictate, or they're not a great dictator. No matter how polished or confident speakers may be, some never lose that nerve and edge. Abdurrahman Green, Muslim speaker in the 1980s, described the feeling he had going to Speakers Corner and seeing the chaos that when it's like, stomach started getting butterflies. Exactly like they call it, fight or flight response. But forget the fight. It's like you want to run. Yeah, it means I'm going to get nervous speaking and not accept what went down at Speakers Corner. I would be nervous. I mean, even as I'm saying it, I feel scared just now. So I'm not sure if this is where they actually do the. I'm not sure if this is where they actually do the speaking. So I'm sure this is the part that they've actually sort of dug it up. So I think this is the part of the park where the actual speakers are, but it's now for some reason been dug up and been hived off by the park, and there's absolutely not one speaker here. So
yes, turn off the music.
So I'm not sure, I think it's actually sort of down that sort of area. So that's all been sort of cordoned off as well. So I think Speaker's Corner has been stopped. Obviously, just as I come down, they've actually stopped Speaker's Corner. And there's, I don't think there's anybody down there either. So I don't think there's anything happening down the Speaker's Corner just now. I think there's a big works and that's about it. But hopefully when it starts up in Edinburgh it'll be better.